excited to have folks here tonight. I know we've got folks registered and we'll be joining in and out, but we want to make best use of our time and have an opportunity to hear from Jullie. So I am Teresa Kittredge. I'm the founder of 100 Rural Women. I'm close to Jullie. I live right down the road in Itasca County in Marcel Township. And we really are putting these sessions together, and Jasmine will talk more about it, but it's really about demystifying those paths to leadership. And what we heard from women in the 100+ meetings we did around the state was they wanted to learn more about people that are serving and to learn what the job's about. So really excited to get going with that. I also want to remind everybody to get out and vote. We're going to post in the chat here. We'll have a very active chat tonight, but in the chat, our Secretary of State's website, where you can go in and you can learn about where to vote, absentee voting. You can go in and click in different races and see candidates' websites. So please do that. And I'm just going to kick it off with some introductions tonight of our two facilitators, Jasmine Terry, and Jasmine is our graduate research assistant at the University of Minnesota on the Minneapolis campus, and Lindsay Romling, who is our undergrad working on this project. And Lindsay is at the University of Minnesota Morris. And then we have a couple of staff people with us tonight that are helping with chat and facilitation, and that's Alexa Schaefer, and Alexa's in maybe Stillwater tonight, not quite sure. And then we have Caitlin Getty, and Caitlin is in Winona. So anyway, we'll get started. I know folks will be joining as we go, but we want to get moving. So Jasmine, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, hello everybody. Like Teresa said, I am Jasmine, the graduate research assistant, and I actually got involved with 100 Rural Women in my undergrad career last year. I ended up graduating, and then I'm at grad school now and saw there was a position open, and I just can't get enough of 100 Rural Women, so I am here. I will give you guys a brief overview of what 100 Rural Women is, and then also what we're doing right now. So 100 Rural Women is a nonprofit and nonpartisan organization interested in providing resources to support and serve rural women. We envision a world where more rural women lead positive change for themselves, their families, communities, the nation, and the world. We aim to achieve this by identifying and creating relationships, networking, leadership, mentorship, and civic engagement. We just completed over 100 meetings across the state of Minnesota as part of our 100 and 100 project, where we learned from and listened to women. This resulted in over 3,000 requests for support. Building from this engagement and research, we are now in the process of creating and building a civic mentorship network with the end goal of engaging 100 rural elected women to mentor 100 rural women to pursue public service. In addition, providing public service and voter education. This spring, we were also fortunate to work with 3 graduate students at the U of M Humphrey Schools on a capstone project called April 2022, The Barriers, Breakthroughs, and Backbone of Elected Rural Women. In this project, the graduate students conducted interviews with elected women and learned a lot from these interviews. We are now holding these informational/educational meetings called Learn About It. So welcome to the beginning stages of our Civic Mentorship Network. If anyone is interested or knows any women interested in public office and is looking for a mentor, we'll be providing a survey after this session for you to fill out and indicate your interest. If you have any friends that are unable to attend but are interested in learning more about these positions, we are recording these meetings and we'll post the video recording on our website. So let's get started. We'll first be introducing our speaker for today, and then you'll hear from her directly. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. Otherwise, we will be holding a space at the end of the session. For any questions during the space, you can either raise your hand and ask them through Zoom, or you can post them in the chat. If you don't feel comfortable sharing this question in front of the whole group, you can direct message Lindsay, and then she will ask the question for you.
All right, today we have the opportunity to hear from Township Supervisor Jullie Lucas. Jullie lives in northeast Minnesota and has lived here most of her life. Jullie is a first-generation college student who graduated from the University of Minnesota-Duluth with bachelor's degrees in biochemistry and molecular biology, as well as a master's in water resources science. After graduating college, Jullie worked in the mining industry and worked to identify approaches for improving environmental compliance. Jullie was soon after Director of Water Resources for Twin Metals Minnesota, where she provided leadership in water programs. Most recently, she began as the Executive Director at Mining Minnesota. Jullie was elected in March of 2022 as a Township Supervisor. Here, she spends a lot of time in her community volunteering and organizing events. Please give a warm welcome to Jullie Lucas.
Thank you. I apologize now for my voice because Caitlin, I saw that you're not feeling the best and neither am I. So, but we're gonna push through. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I am excited to talk to you about being a township supervisor. I know that's not a glamorous position, but it's an important one. And so our township is called French Township, and we have somewhere around 500 people. And I say it funny like that because it's 500 people year round, but this is a tourist community. And so we blow up to about, I've seen anything between 3,000 to 5,000 people in the summer for estimates here. So it's an interesting community in that I have year-round residents who have their issues and concerns, and then we have a lot of summer folks who have their own interests and concerns. And so I've lived up here 15 years now. My husband's actually from here. And so how I even started thinking about running for this position, and one of my pieces of advice for people is that I wanted to know about my community and I wanted to know how it was run. And so I've been attending township meetings for quite a while now, because to put it frankly, you pay taxes and you should know what folks are doing with those taxes. And I wanted to just understand more about, what goes on behind the scenes as far as how things are done here. So I started going to meetings and learning more about it. And we had a supervisor who was stepping down after over 20 years of service. And because I had been regularly at those meetings and regularly contributing ideas, he approached me actually and said, "Hey, I think it would be great if you ran for this office." And of course, being the way I tend to be, I said no. And I'm sure there's many of you on this call that would do the same thing where you'd say, no, I'm good. But eventually I thought, well, why can't I do it? Because everything at first was all the reasons I couldn't do it. And then I started thinking about, well, why can't I? Yeah, I'll have to learn things, but I've always had to learn things. That's what every job you've had, you have to learn. So I decided to run because there was that spot that was opening up that needed someone to step in to keep the lights on for the township. So I'd love to say it was some more, really exciting reason, but no, I just wanted to help take care of my community. So in a township, there actually is a lot more going on in a rural township than some people may realize. We have a really active fire and EMS department, and it's always amazing to me how many calls the fire and EMS department get. And my advice to people, if you're going to move to a rural area, is to understand what fire and EMS services you have in your rural community, because they are not all equal and they need volunteers too. And so fire and EMS is actually one of the big things that we oversee in our group, particularly when it comes to how we tax our citizens and our levies, because fire and EMS departments are expensive, and providing that support for them as they go for grants from Homeland Security and different things like that, that's actually a big piece. Another big piece that we work with is roads and bridges. We all want good roads. We don't want potholes. And townships, we have our own roads that we maintain. So there's, we have a county highway cutting through. I actually live on a county road, but then we have township roads that we need to worry about. And those can also overlap when it comes to bad storms. Every summer we have bad storms. I know a few of you that live up north. I'm looking at one of you in particular. you know what kind of horrible storm we had this summer. We had a terrible storm this summer, took out tons of trees. And so when they cut off township roads, that's something that we need to worry about. Other things we do that are more fun, we have a recreation program and we have community events. We have our 4 seasons of fun, and our community, Side Lake is our town. Some of you may have heard of Side Lake. We have an amazing state park here in McCarthy Beach. So we also help support our community events we have. And so it's just a lot of random things. It's maybe fighting for broadband. It's, maybe just answering citizen complaints about that the road mowing took out too big of an area when they mow. So you get interesting phone calls sometimes where you just really wonder if people aren't busy doing other things that they're calling you to complain about that, but it's part of the job. So an average day with being in this role is just really serving the community. You do get a lot of phone calls or a lot of emails of people just questioning things, or people coming up with suggestions, or people asking, well, why haven't we done that? Or people saying, well, we haven't done this before, why are we doing it now? And it's just working with your community and getting to know what they have going on and what their concerns, like I said, what are their concerns? Ideally, it's what are their ideas? So you try to steer them to that, is what are your ideas for our community? But the overall arching goal is you just want a community where, frankly, people don't come to the township meetings. If you're doing your job well, people aren't coming to complain. People aren't coming to raise heck about things. Governance just goes on, and like I said, the roads are smooth, and the lights are kept on, and the buildings are well maintained, and folks don't even know that we exist. In a well-run township, they don't even know what our names are, because we're getting stuff done and their lives just move on smoothly and they don't notice. So thankfully that has been how it's been, and I'm really lucky in that I stepped into a role. Our township supervisors have been really excellent township supervisors, and that makes my job a lot easier. I'm stepping into a role where, like I said, the gentleman that retired ahead of me was there for 20 plus years. Another person was there himself 20 plus years. Our town clerk's been there 15 plus years, and they've done a good job, and that makes things a lot easier. But I look at why they've done a good job or how they've done a good job, and I'm trying to continue that on as I step into this role. So it's only been a few months. It's already been 6 months, a few months. So that tells you it goes fast. And only a couple of years, I'm gonna have to start running for office again. So that's just kind of a general, we take care of the nuts and the bolts. It's township buildings. It's because we have a pavilion you can rent and another building you can rent, and maintaining those. And it's just a little bit of everything, which is kind of neat. It's stuff I wouldn't have done before. I wouldn't have worried about roads and bridges. And now I get to know about what code is for roads and what you have to maintain. So kind of just broadens your expertise a little bit.
That's awesome, Julie. You definitely touched on like why you ran for office and kind of what you do in office, but what 100 Rural Women is really curious about, and I'm sure other people on the call is really curious about, are like, what are the benefits, like besides, you're thinking about like financial and stuff like that. Like, let's throw that out of there. What other benefits do you see being on the town board?
You get to know your community, and that's fun because, we live in our little bubbles, right? We all have our friends, we have our little social groups. And when you're involved in town board or city council or any of those roles, you just get to meet people, and there's a lot of really cool people in this world that for some reason your paths never cross, whether it's just because they don't work in the same industry as you do, or they don't have the exact same hobbies you do, and you somehow coexist in these, and for my case, a really small town, we coexist and never know each other exists. And then you spend time with this person and you discover they have like some really cool job, or they have some really cool hobby, or they did some, we have a decent amount of retired people up here, and you find out they had some really amazing thing they did in their work life back in the day, or there's so many cool stories. So being a township supervisor, you just get access to people that you never would have known existed before. And so that's like a benefit that for me, I've just really enjoyed that opportunity to get to know ultimately my neighbors, right? These are the people I share a community with. And so that's a huge benefit. As far as being in a township, one of the big benefits is that you aren't alone as a township. You have a Minnesota Association of Townships, and it's really grassroots, and they take care of their townships that are exist in this state, as far as trainings go, and as far as just sharing best practices and all those things. So you also have the benefit of working with other people that want to keep rural America running, right? We sometimes are at a disadvantage because, when I think about what we have for a budget, it's comically small. But we accomplish a lot with it. And, you have that Minnesota Association of Townships that helps you just learn more, how to get more out of your money. And they provide, like I said, trainings and legal trainings and all those things that can really help a township so that we can keep our taxes down, because we don't want to raise our levy when we already have county taxes and stuff like that. So I get to learn a lot through that, like I said, about a world that I don't dabble in daily. I don't do roads and bridges. So just getting to learn more. So if you like people and you like to learn, going into public service like this just gives you an opportunity to broaden your world past what you do on a daily basis.
That's really inspiring, Jullie. I come from a rural town, so it's just really great to hear people who are so passionate about rural America. So right now we're going to move into questions. So if anyone has a question, feel free to raise your hand and I'll call on you, or say it to the chat. I will start off with a question. You talked a little bit ago about like stepping into a role where people have been there for many, many years. And to me, that sounds intimidating. So I want to ask you, like, how was that for you? And like, how challenging was it? Did you have pushback?
Thankfully, no. So I am very lucky in that, like I had mentioned, I had been going to those township meetings often enough that folks knew me, which helped. And then the gentleman who was stepping down was really excited to have me run for office. So, when it came time to actually, throw my name out there, he wrote something for the local paper saying, here's why I'm backing her. And because there was a write-in candidate against me, who for some reason hadn't filed in time to just be on the ballot, but he did put his name in as a write-in and ran a pretty aggressive campaign as a write-in. So to have that support from the outgoing supervisor saying, nope, I want you to vote for Jullie, putting my sign in his yard, things like that was a big boost. And then having the other folks that also were on the township, having them know me, really helped too. And folks, what I've seen is that the generation that's hoping to step away from those roles, they want to make sure the next generation knows what they're doing. And they've been really good mentors and pulling us in and saying, because we also have another young female supervisor that just, she was just appointed to the board a few months ago when one of the other supervisors decided to retire midterm. And so having, like I said, the remaining folks, the township clerk and those folks kind of just mentor us has been really, really critical. Because if they weren't so, I'm just going to say the word caring, because they have been. If they weren't so caring, it would be a lot scarier, but they want to make us successful. And so as we've had some controversial topics come up over the summer. They've been like, helping on the side, and township clerk, especially because he can reach out to us without it breaking open meeting laws or anything. So having folks that are looking out for you is a big deal for sure.
That's great. That gives me a lot of hope for the future. We have a question in the chat, and it is, what role do you think townships could or should play in advocating for equitable access for voting rights in rural areas?
That is, that's a really good question. I have really appreciated our township clerk, and I know it's maybe not fully the equitable issue, but one of his big things has been making sure that people who need mail-in ballots can get mail-in ballots. It's easier in a small community to really push for that because you really know who people are. But as far as different getting the message out there as to when you have to get submitted for the early access or the absentee ballots, things like that has been big. But transportation's a big deal, especially in a rural area where you have, in our rural area, I should say, we tend to skew to the older population who may not be able to drive themselves to go vote, and to make sure that people are reaching out to them to either do the absentee ballot or just have transportation. That's a big deal. And like I said, that's for our issue, because we don't have a lot of we don't have a lot of diversity here. I'm just gonna say it like that. Vicky, you know exactly what I'm talking. We don't. But the getting people access to voting is important. Our voting area is in a very central location, which helps. And so that's one thing. But yeah, I think I had to take advantage of absentee ballot voting in 2020 because I had just had surgery for breast cancer on October 27th, and we voted November 3rd or something like that. So absentee ballot, I really believe strongly in supporting that program because people have life, like things happen. And our other thing that we have up here that could be an issue, and we want to make sure people have access to voting, is we also have a decent amount of the population that leaves for the winter. I can't imagine. They won't anymore because Florida apparently just got wiped out today. So our population is going to be different this winter, I think. I don't say that my father-in-law is one of them, so I'm not saying that as a smart aleck. Like I genuinely am thinking that's going to happen here. But yeah, access to those, I think that's one of the big things, is making sure people know that's their right to have those absentee ballots.
That's awesome. I definitely utilize the absentee ballot as a college student.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks like Lois has her hand up. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. You've referenced the clerk a few times, Julie.
Yeah.
Can you help us a little bit to learn more about the clerk position? Because I think in the township structure, the clerk is really critical, and I mean, obviously the vote goes with the supervisors, but is the clerk a voting member? That's a question I have. I didn't think they were, and it looks like you're going to know. But you have all these folks who, for the most part, might be working farmers in agrarian territories, or retired people.
Yep.
So that clerk is glue. And how does the clerk work with you?
It's funny. I was just going to say the township clerk is the glue that holds us all together. We tease him that's why he's paid twice as much as us. We aren't paid very much, so it's even funnier. But yeah, the clerk is critical. My sister-in-law was clerk for Barnum Township, so just south of Duluth. And so when I was running for township supervisor, my brother said, just so you know, the township clerk does all the work. He goes, I've seen my wife's office, he said.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's an interesting, it's really interesting to me because yeah, the supervisors are like, oh, we're township supervisors and we vote on things and we have these meetings and we discuss stuff. But behind the scenes, the clerk's the one who's sending out all the public notices. And they're the ones who are, you know, working with the treasurer to make sure that we're managing money well. And he's, in our case, he, you know, is communicating with us individually about different issues going on. He's the one who's sending us heads up, there's this meeting coming up, heads up, there's this training, heads up, you know, and you know, he's just doing a lot of little legwork and getting zero credit for it. So yeah, clerk. And so I'm one thing that I'm appreciating about our clerk, speaking of mentors, is that he recently, June or July, actually appointed a deputy clerk, another woman. We're slowly taking over French Township. So he appointed a deputy clerk so that he can train her in that role, so that when he decides he doesn't want to run anymore, she already has that experience, so she can run for township clerk with.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it is, because, you know, he says jokingly, well, if I get hit by a bus, and we tell him he shouldn't say that because it's just not a good thing to say, but it's true. He holds so much history and knowledge and makes things work smoothly. And he does a lot of the coordination with our township employees, because we have 2 township employees who do all the grounds and maintenance stuff.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, he is a very underappreciated individual by the community anyways, not by us. We lost without him, but.
Could I ask just one quick follow-on question? Number one, it was interesting for you to say he, because my personal life experience has found that position so frequently to be a she.
Mm.
And so my follow-on question is, were you the first female in a supervisor position for the township?
I was, which was pretty exciting. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was slightly intimidating. But yeah.
Okay, congratulations.
Thanks. I know, that's why it was fun when just a few months after that, then another woman came on, and then a few months after that,
They're taking us over.
I know. And they joke about that too. And we're like, don't you worry, boys, you're just fine.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for asking questions. I know we could just sit here and ask a million questions, but we are running out of time. I'd love to have Jullie, you just say one quick closing statement about the importance of mentorship and give any advice to those prospective women seeking public office.
It's okay if you don't know what you're doing. You can run for office. No one actually knows what they're doing. And mentorship is everything. In this case, it was a man who mentored me and who's helping still coach me in this role. And that's okay. And just remember, when you get the chance to mentor somebody, to also do it. And don't think mentors are always somebody older and more experienced than you, because I learn a lot from women who are significantly younger than me. So mentorship works in all directions and shapes and ways. And like I said, just be brave and just go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to present with us. I'll turn the time over to Teresa so she can talk to everyone about ways to stay connected with 100 Rural Women.
Well, thanks so much, Jullie. And these sessions have been fun. We've tried different times, and I've gotten, as not unexpected, emails from people saying, oh, I missed it, or I can't make it. So these, just so everybody knows, these sessions are all recorded. We'll have them posted on our website. And this is just the beginning of us starting to build this network, to a mentorship network, civic mentorship network, to support and encourage and engage women in public service. So we're really thankful for your time tonight. And I loved the chat. There were some great questions in there tonight. So just a reminder again, vote we've got the resources in there on voting information. If you want to learn a little bit more about 100 Rural Women, please join us in one of our programs.